the field has been dominated by strength training. Okay, the field of strength and conditioning is all about, for the longest time, it's been all about strength. Some coaches will lean towards more of a power development. Some coaches will lean more towards stabilization, and those are things we'll get into more depth here in just a moment. But whereas in the early ages, it was just, let's move a lot of weight. I'm a big hoss, throw the chains on my back. Let me show you what I could do. Whereas now it's a lot more of a scientific background. We understand just so much more about the human body now. We take what we can with iron, dumbbells, weights, bands, all that kind of stuff, and we apply it in a way now to where we're creating some of the best athletes we've ever seen. World records being broken in the Olympics every 4 years. Records being broken in all of our professional leagues. Those things stem from improved performance, recovery, and of course, output. And so the field is continuing to grow. If any of you are interested, whether it be from your own personal interest, from this conversation, from things you've seen, Mr. Hitman will give out my email after this. You're absolutely welcome to give out my email. If any of you are interested in talking more about the field and some of the opportunities that could be awaiting you after you graduate, I'd love to answer any of those questions and be a part of that process for you. But again, let's get back to what we're all here for, is training, right? Although strength is important, it is the foundation for everything we're going to do. You want to get faster? Let's get your muscles stronger. You want to be more powerful? Let's get your muscles stronger. You want to reduce your likelihood of injury? Let's get the muscles stronger. So foundationally, you're not going to be wrong by challenging yourself, lifting heavy, okay? But where my philosophy and a lot of other strength coaches changes is that word exactly, is heavy. How do we train heavy? Big misconception in the field, all strength and conditioning coaches, all we're doing is just throwing a bunch of weight on the bar. We're doing 1 rep maxes. I'm screaming into a microphone at some guy while his knees are shaking and, his self-esteem is getting crushed. That's a unfortunate misconception. Where I find myself in our athletes training is we find that what I call the healthy 80%. We don't need to be maxing all day, every day. You don't need to be lifting to your absolute max exhaustion every time. Some of you might be going to the gym, you roll into GB3, you're feeling okay, but you just fatigue yourself so much that the next day you can't train. And that's where my philosophy changes. That fine 80%, as we were just referencing. I want to dose our athletes with just enough fatigue and movement and things I know they're going to stress their body and their nervous system. I want to give them just enough to where they're going to get that adaptation, okay? They're going to get stronger. We're going to become more lean. We're going to become more agile. We're going to become faster. And we're going to reduce the likelihood of injury. But we have to find that fine line where they can still come back the next day. They can go back home and study. They have energy for their jobs, those of them who have work. And so it's that fine line of training appropriately and overtraining. And so some other things I wanted to discuss with you guys today, for example, is that there's not one route to point B from point A, okay? So just looking at the class, for example, Jared might really enjoy weight training. Juliana, you might love cardio, and that's your thing. Samantha, you because of the quarantine, you've gotten into yoga. The biggest thing when it comes to fitness and health that I try to tell everybody about, the factor that aligns with the most success, okay? Looking at all the research, what is the one thing that all these people have that are successful in their athletic endeavors, whether it be losing weight, getting more fit, things like that. Before, I was going to have you guess, but just to save some time here, the number one factor in finding success in losing weight, being more fit, becoming more athletically prepared, okay, is consistency. All right? All the research in the world, you could look at Olympians, NBA, NFL, collegiate sports, youth sports. The number one factor in being successful is consistency. And what I mean by that is, again, all of you, we gave each of you a different sport or a different thing that you guys enjoyed doing, right? The number one thing is being consistent. So if I don't like yoga, chances are I'm not going to do yoga 4 times a week. So I'm not going to be consistent in that endeavor. So what I want to challenge you guys to do is find that physical activity that you really like, okay? And this class, I mean, we have so many bodies in here, 34 people. There might be some skateboarders in here. There might be some weightlifters. Some of you might like to run after school around your neighborhood. Some of you may be really into, again, things that we've discussed, yoga. Some of you might really enjoy doing Pilates. Because of the quarantine, I found myself walking a lot more. So it's just finding those things you enjoy so that you can habitually be consistent in those endeavors, okay? I know right now gyms are closed, right? We've had to become more creative. We've had to be more willing to try new things. And that's where I got into yoga. If you guys want to ask Mr. Hitman, I am not a yoga body. That's not what God gave me to utilize. Holding different positions, stretches, you know, it's just, it's never been my cup of tea, and I've never been really good at it. But something that the Lord challenged me with this quarantine was, hey, you got to stay fit for your athletes. You got to start doing something. And that's where I just pulled up YouTube. I found, I believe it was, I believe her name is Sarah Stiles. If I'm butchering that, I'm sorry, but I can get that cleared up here later. But it's just great YouTube channel. She had 30-minute, 20-minute videos in which it was just yoga basics, and it was stuff I was able to try, and it was something I found just enough joy in to maintain and be consistent. So for those of you who are gym bodies like me, but of course GB3 is closed, your local gyms are closed, things like that. Until then, I would just encourage you guys to be finding something that maybe isn't on the top of the list, you know, but if we can do number 2 and 3 on the list habitually, we might be able to maintain our weight, our fitness, our lean muscle until we get back to something like a gym or those traditional things you guys might be enjoying. But something that I'm going to be telling our athletes, and it's something that we speak on all the time, is that consistency, right? And you guys can see it in your academics, in your life. If I'm trying to lose weight, all right, I don't just make good food choices today, like for lunch. That's not going to accomplish my goal. I tell Mr. Hitman all the time, you know, I encourage him, hey man, let's go have like a chili cheeseburger, all this kind of stuff. I'm always trying to eat poorly to test him. But consistently, he tells me no. I don't know if that's just because he's not trying to have lunch with me or if he's making healthy decisions, but the consistency is there, all right? And so that's what I just want to encourage you guys to do, whether it be with your food. It's very difficult, I understand. I love carbs and chocolate. God gave me those gifts, and I indulge in those things. But it's also consistently being mindful of, hey, you know, when did I have fruit last? Maybe I should throw in some fruit today. When's the last time I had a green vegetable? How much water have I drank today? You know, those are questions I would encourage you guys to just challenge yourselves and continue to ask yourselves. As you go through this unique semester, you're at home, some of you are in different places doing your classes. Stuff like that can be tough. But I would just encourage you. Find some things you like to do physically, running, doing different things on the grass. That might be yoga, push-ups and sit-ups until you're exhausted, you know. Find those things that you feel like you can manage and do habitually, and you're going to find a lot more success in those endeavors than hopping back and forth from different things with inconsistency. Okay, so I wanted to share that little tidbit with you guys. Something we're steering away from at FPU Athletics. For those of you who like weight training, we are no longer maxing. All right. Or for those of you who like CrossFit or anything like that, no more PRs. The reason for that is because what we found, whether it be in our local community, discussing with other strength coaches across the country, in those maximal efforts, I mean, it is really cool. You know, you get to set those standards for yourself. Hey, I squatted 400 pounds, you know, it's a great goal. You know, it's a great standard that I've set. However, for our student athletes, for example, having them do that one incredibly maximal effort, you know, was great, but then they'd strain, you know, an athlete or two would hurt their back, or hey, I pulled my hammy a little bit trying to do that, or this or that. And I've just come to the conclusion that although those things are great, it's really cool to have those PRs, things like that. I would much rather my athletes accomplish 90% of their max, still get the adaptation, and then be able to come to training the next day. So if that's you and you've experienced that in the past, or you're afraid of doing some of those maximal efforts, just know that physiologically, you're not losing anything by not completing a max. You know, if you're getting stronger in your squat, if you're getting stronger in your deadlift, hitting those 70, 80, 90% of what you think is maximal is going to get you so much more than that 1 or 2 reps at the most weight you can do, outside of like our mental, right, and our social. I want to dab up my boys. Yo, I just got 400 pounds hit, man. Let's do it. You know, he's a little less excited when I do it. But yeah, and that mental, like, hey, look at what I've accomplished. I set this goal and I hit it. Although those things are valuable, I've just decided to set different standards in our weight room and some other ways for athletes to feel that accomplishment, while still taking care of their bodies, not damaging, you know, our joints, and being able to return to training the next day. And so just a little bit of insight into my philosophy and how we're going about training. Last thing I wanted to share with you, it's 12:20. I want to kind of honor that 12:30 window. A couple more things I just wanted to discuss, and then we can kind of open it up for questions. Something we never get to work on, and something, it's the fault of the strength and conditioning community that we haven't put more importance on this kind of stuff, but something I want to encourage you guys to look into or ask me about later, whatever it may be. You can Google this topic and you'll get a million links and all sorts of stuff. Something that I feel like we need to stress before anybody does any sort of strength training. You know, oftentimes, I haven't worked out ever, but I have a buddy. He's going to take me to the gym. He's going to teach me how to do weights. He's going to teach me how to squat, things like that. What we've failed to implement as strength and conditioning coaches and as health practitioners is this concept of mobility, okay? God gave us these incredible bodies with this incredible range of motion, our hips, our legs, our upper body, our neck, our spine. Those things are very mobile, okay? However, when, like young kids, for example, when we start lifting too early, the muscles and the tendons begin to harden. You know, that's how we become more resilient to injury, is we add resistance and tension to that tendon. That pulls on the bone, which strengthens the bone, and the tendons and the muscle subsequently also become more tight, become more secure in the joint. And become more protective of those joints, okay? The problem is that for a lot of us, and for some of you, unfortunately, that might have been the first time you've heard that. Danny, what is mobility training, okay? And a long story short, what mobility training is selective and purposeful stretching, okay? Each one of us, and each of your parents, you might actually see it more in your parents, just depending on their jobs or what they're doing all day. We develop muscular imbalances, okay? For example, bless my dad's heart, he drives a truck all day, okay? So he's sitting in a truck all day, all right? Hips are flexed, all right? He's sitting back, but he's also hunched forward, all right? That's gonna eventually, over time, okay, over time, not in a week, not in a month, but over time, okay, our body is going to take the path of least resistance, okay? And what I mean by that is, for the sake of your comfort, for the sake of your body, it's going to do things, it's going to do whatever it needs to do to make things more comfortable, what we call the path of least resistance. So if I sit in a curvature all day, okay, if I'm sitting at a desk all day, sitting in a curve, okay, that's going to eventually beat up what we call my thoracic spine, all right? So for a lot of our athletes, all right, and this has only been a thing we've been considering for the last couple of years, but everybody's sitting in their car, we sit at a desk, what are we doing now? Staring at my phone, I'm on my laptop, all right? So for example, I've had to consider upper body, thoracic, and cervical mobility as part of our training, okay? So now, for example, before I have any of our baseball players, any of our volleyball players, anybody who's an overhead athlete, anybody whose hand's gonna go overhead, volleyball, baseball, swimming, I have to consider, hey, chances are, like me, they've been sitting at a desk or sitting in a chair all quarantine, right? They've been sitting, relaxing in their couches. They've been sitting in their cars, driving. We've been lounging, enjoying Netflix, all right? Did anybody else notice the new button? It's not continue watching or just stop. It's continue watching and don't ask me about it. I think that was pretty funny that they added that button. So anyway, we've all been chilling, okay? We're all lounging around. What's that gonna cause though? Just more generally, we're gonna have tight hip flexors, okay? If I'm sitting in a chair all day, my hip is flexed, right? Here's my spine, here's my leg, all right? That hip flexor is gonna get tight. What's also gonna happen? Those muscles of the mid to low back are gonna stretch, okay? For some people, that's gonna cause a lot of pain and discomfort, okay? Because over time, again, what's happening? Our muscles are gonna take the path of least resistance, but at the same time, we were not made to sit this much. We were not made to be sitting this much, okay? If you look back just in recent history, we were laboring more. Technology has allowed us to do a lot less physical labor, right? We can now sit at a desk. We can do more of those things. We could sit in a car and drive this stuff hundreds of miles. So these are the kinds of things, it's almost like we're fighting against that human nature, right? So just a couple things to consider, especially as we all sit on our phones, we're all sitting on our computers. I want you guys to look up several things, okay? I want you to look up cervical mobility exercises. That's something you can put in to Google. Cervical, C-E-R-V-I-C-A-L, okay? And then what we also have is thoracic mobility. And I think that's gonna help a lot of you. It's helped me a lot. Not that you guys are having to follow me on Instagram, but for example, I put up an Instagram post the other day of 4 thoracic mobility exercises that I just wanted to encourage our community and our athletes to do. And I've gotten a lot of great feedback. Hey, Danny, I've been implementing this like 10 minutes before bed, and it's been feeling great. And I've heard that from people who sit all day and those who are very physically active. So just a couple things to consider, and I can share our school's strength and conditioning Instagram handle and my own personal one, if you guys would like. And I'll make sure Mr. Hitman has those for you as well. I'm always trying to put out some content that's helpful. But a couple things I wanted to have you take away before we talk about nutrition briefly and we open the floor for questions is the concept of mobility. It's going to help you improve in your lifts. For those of you who lift, having increased mobility, increased spinal mobility, shoulder mobility, hip mobility, that stuff is just going to help tremendously with your fitness endeavors. So those of you who, anybody in here who's a runner, who does yoga, who's lifting, especially anybody who's doing resistance training, weightlifting, mobility is going to save you a lot of pain and discomfort, and it might just help you improve in your performance. So just a couple things I'd encourage you guys to look into. Vernon Griffith, I could just drop a couple names here. If you want to find him on Instagram, his whole philosophy is mobility. He's a cool dude, former Army Ranger, tatted up head to toe, but he just does like these crazy mobility exercises, but they're very, very helpful. Vernon Griffith is his name. If anybody Griffith, if anybody's trying to look him up. And we'll talk more Instagram stuff and that kind of stuff later when we get to questions. A little bit about nutrition, and then I'm going to open the floor up for questions. Nutritionally, it's the same. I want to approach this in the same way that we were discussing strength training and physical activity. Okay, this is not a one-size-fits-all picture. We are all building a different puzzle, and we're all going to require a different piece to make this thing work. So for example, Marina might do really great having carbs all day. Her body just feeds off that. She's full, she's staying lean, and she's able to accomplish all the things she wants, okay? Big Dan, that would not work for me. That just wouldn't work for me. I'd be gaining all sorts of weight, and I'd be sleeping in the corner watching other people lift. So just to let you guys understand, there's not a one size fits all. For some of you, having more fat in your diet is actually going to help you lose weight. Whereas for some of you, depending on the sports you play, how active you are at your job, you might require different micro and macronutrients. So one thing I wanted to share with you guys is the misconception with protein, okay? And I hope this also is received well by all of the ladies in the class. There's a big misconception with like overeating protein. I don't want to get bulky, and this is for our guys too, of course. I don't want to get too bulky. I don't want to lift weights and have protein and gain weight. Okay, there's a big misconception with the idea of gaining weight. For some of you, and myself included, I don't have a problem gaining weight. I could put on LBs pretty quickly. I could put on muscle fast. I could put on fat really, really fast. You know, let's have a competition. I'll probably win. However, as I've been trying to fine tune that and find the best route for me, it's just taken a lot of trial and error, different meal plans, trying out different foods, and just seeing how my body works with those things. For example, you guys might have heard of intermittent fasting or the keto diet. Both of those things are very closely related, the keto diet and intermittent fasting. The concept behind both of them is my body is not having any calories for X amount of time, okay? Forcing itself as it gets better, okay? People also misunderstand that it takes a while for our bodies to adapt. So if I'm getting on the keto diet, or if I am intermittent fasting, okay, it's going to take a couple weeks for even the scratching of the surface of those results to start to happen, because it's teaching our body and exposing our body to a different way of metabolic fuel, okay? So for example, myself, I do intermittent fasting, and you could say I touch a little bit into keto, all right? Because how I go about my day, I wake up early, I train, I've already been at work for several hours, and then I eat, all right? What that causes, though, is you have my 8 hours of sleep. Actually, it's not 8. I wake up early, send Mr. Hitman some memes and stuff like that, maybe 6.5 hours, half hour of chit chat, and then an hour of getting ready, okay? But I haven't eaten since 7, 8 o'clock the night before, okay? I'll go through my morning, I'll fast, I'll have worked out, and then as we get to that 3, 4, 5 o'clock window, I'll allow myself to eat again. Those are the basic concepts of intermittent fasting, how it applies to keto, okay? How we get into ketosis, that's like this big buzzword right now, right? How do we tap into fat stores so that I can burn some of the fat that I have on my body? Okay, it's a combination of two factors, okay? One, which is the most difficult, is limiting the amount of carbohydrates and food you're gonna have in a specific window of time. So and the general rule is like 8 hours. That's the kind of general rule. I wake up, I don't eat for 8 hours, and then I'm encouraging my body to get into what is called ketosis, in which I don't have any carbohydrates to pull from, okay? I'm not gonna pull protein from my muscles because I wanna protect that lean muscle, but hey, I have some fat stored here in the back. Let me tap into that and utilize it. That's the general concept of ketosis, and intermittent fasting. The problem with ketosis and the keto diet and all of that is that it's hard to maintain. It's hard to maintain, especially as a student and a student athlete. You guys are waking up early, you're going to class. What's our brain's favorite fuel? Glucose, all right? One of our best carbohydrates, okay? But if you're following the keto diet or intermittent fasting, you might have not had a carbohydrate since 6 or 7 o'clock the night before. And so why I'm saying that is, although it's a great new fad, it is a fad. Ketosis has been around for a long time, but the keto diet and like the supplements and stuff that they are marketing to you guys, to everybody, that's just the new current fad. It's just the new cycle of stuff they're trying to market. The concept of ketosis and burning fat, however, is historically an older concept. Anyway, so it's not something I would necessarily encourage you guys to do unless it serves how you go about your day and how you go about your eating. But I just wanted to cover a couple bigger diet options. Intermittent fasting, I think, is more functional and something you guys can do, especially if you're not big breakfast eaters. I am not a big breakfast eater. I'll wake up, I'll fast from breakfast, I'll train, I'll feel awesome, and then I'll eat. I'll start at lunch. And then I'll have that earlier dinner, just for example, myself. So if that's you and you're not eating 3 big square meals a day, intermittent fasting might actually be a great way for you to tap into fat stores. Not a crazy concept. Again, some of the basics. There's a lot more details. There's fine tuning to you, but the basics are, I don't give my body carbohydrates for a big chunk of time, okay, forcing my body to then become more reliant on utilizing my fat stores. But again, if you're intermittent fasting, you shouldn't expect you should expect almost to be uncomfortable for that first week or two, because we are carb reliant, especially in the Western culture. We love our bread, we love our rice, we love our sugar. So telling your body, hey, you're not going to get any of that from like the time I go to bed till noon, that's a toughie. And for some of you, it might even be a bigger window. And so just something I would encourage you guys to do, try some of this stuff out. You know, you're not going to know what works best unless you try it for yourself. Intermittent fasting is what I have found to be uniquely, I have found success with that in my life. My sister and my brother, we got the same blood, we got the same parents, everything. They can't intermittent fast, and that's not where they would find success. So I would just encourage you guys, try some different things out, of course, within reason, nothing dangerous. There are a lot of dangerous fads and diets out there that I would not encourage you to do. But again, they're really clever and good with their marketing. They want your money, and that's all they really care about. So just be mindful. If something doesn't sound safe or right for you, then it probably isn't, you know? So I'd encourage you guys. I would love to be a resource for anybody who has questions about that. Feel free to send me an email. And we could talk about any of this further. I know half hour, 45 minutes is kind of hard to go into detail on a lot of stuff. But I want to be that resource for you if you need me. So I guess now, you know, we're at 12:37. I already have gone past a little bit of time, but I did want to make sure we open up for questions. I know I've been just shooting all sorts of information your way. Do we still, Mr. Hitman, do we have time for questions?
Absolutely.
So yeah, I mean, I guess I don't know how we want to do it. I know we have the reactions and things like that. I guess maybe we just do like a raised hand, or
Do the raised hand.
those of you on the black screens where we can't, you know, like see you live. I don't know if you want to just unmute or something. We'll figure it out. But yeah, I guess now, thank you. Number one, thank you guys for letting me just talk at you for the last 40 minutes. I really do appreciate that. I hope there was some beneficial stuff in there while kind of staying general. But please feel free, shoot me some specifics. I'd love to be challenged, some crazy questions, or anything that you'd like to review from what we talked about. Let's open it up. Yeah, let's open it up for questions.
I have one.
Yeah. Marina, yeah.
So whenever, yeah. So whenever you're trying out a diet, like what would be the window of time would you recommend? Like when should you expect results, or when you start noticing, okay, maybe this is not working and I should drop it?
Sure, that's a great question. I always tell people, just because again, everybody's body is different, right? You might see results in like a week or two, whereas for some people, because of their metabolism and their genetics, they might not see results for like 30 days. So my general piece of advice is if somebody is trying a new diet or a new, sorry, I don't like to use the word diet. I think we should remove it from our vocabulary. For anybody that's making a lifestyle change nutritionally, okay? I always tell them, give it 30 days, see how your body reacts in that 30 days. Um, on the low end, I don't feel that it's realistic that anybody can see significant results, safe, significant results in under 2 weeks. Any diet, any change to your nutrition or diet plan that is telling you you're going to lose X amount in like a week or two, that starts to become a little bit more dangerous. For those of you who don't know, and you might have covered it in class, healthy weight loss or gain is 1 pound to 1.5 pounds per week. If people tell you otherwise, those are like the supplement being marketed to you. Hey, let's lose 5 pounds a week. That stuff becomes very stressful to your liver, to your kidneys, and to your heart. Okay. So we want to make sure as we're putting on or as we're taking off weight, we want to make sure we're doing it in a healthy manner. And a healthy manner is about 1.5 pounds to 2 pounds maximally, those ranges per week. So if you look at it in the grand scheme of a month, that's about 6 to 10 pounds a month. If you're really on it with your nutrition and you're training hard. So those would be the safe guidelines. But as far as to answer your question, time of expectation, I would give yourself 30 days. Any new lifestyle change, any new exercise program, give yourself a month. See how your body does. That's the only fair amount of time I could say for you to truly see what could be changing or happening. That's a great question.
During a intermittent fasting diet, how would you say to protect your lean mass as you are digging into the fat stores?
Yes. Okay, great question. This is where we start to discuss our protein. Okay. So just to give you some general numbers, all right, if we're looking at grams per pound, all right, like let's say I'm 200 pounds, okay, I think I'm like 220 today, all right, 0.8 grams of protein per pound of body weight per day is going to be encouraging for me to lose weight. Let me repeat that. 0.8 grams of protein per pound of my body weight per day. That's the amount of protein I want to be having per day if I'm trying to cut weight, okay? 1 gram of protein per pound of body weight is what I want to have to maintain my lean mass. For a lot of people, that 1 gram number does the trick. For others, 1.2 to 1.4 grams of protein per pound is so that I can build lean mass. Now, and if anybody needs me to repeat those, I can. 0.8, 1, 1.4. Okay, 1.2, 1.4. Lose, maintain, gain. All right. For some people, we can fluctuate with those numbers a little bit. Those are general common guidelines for everyone. But again, to each individual is going to be a little different. So let's just start with that, right? So if I'm having 1 gram per pound of body weight, per kilogram, sorry. Take a step back. Per kilogram, I don't want you to have 200 grams of protein per day. It's per kilogram, okay, which is 2.2 pounds. 1 kilogram is 2.2 pounds. All right, I'm sorry for any confusion there. 0.8, 1, and 1.4 grams per kilogram of body weight. So I'm 220 pounds, all right? That's 100 kilograms, okay? So if I'm doing the 0.8, that's 80 grams of protein a day. If that's the 1, that's 100. If I'm at the 1.4, 1.2, that's 120 to 140. I didn't lose anybody, right? We still good? I'm sorry for the confusion earlier. Yes, not per pound, per kilogram of body weight. I want to have 0.8, 1, or 1.4 grams. So if I'm intermittent fasting, that's going to seem very daunting, right? Danny, you're telling me I got to have 80 grams and I got to fit that into 2 meals? That does sound like a lot, okay? But let's break it down real quick, all right? 6-ounce chicken breast, all right? Maybe like this big. This is going to give you like 20 grams right there, all right? A protein shake. You know, some of you guys are already having protein shakes. If you are wanting to cut weight, okay, if you're wanting to lose some body fat, one of the easiest things I could tell you to just start doing, eating more protein. All right, eating more protein. It's going to keep you more full. It's going to help you, as Tyler was asking. I hope that was Tyler who asked me the question. If it's not, sorry. It's going to help you retain that lean mass. Okay, if I'm giving my body protein, which in a long story short is the foundation of our muscle, okay, is the foundation of rebuilding muscle, our amino acids. To maintain that lean mass while I'm not giving my body those carbohydrates and to encourage that fat loss, an increase of protein is the route to go. And let me tell you why. Protein is the highest nutrient we have in what we call satiety. Okay, satiety is that feeling of fullness. Okay, I'm satiate, I'm full. All right. Carbohydrates are the least high in satiety. So you could just do this test on yourself tomorrow. So tomorrow, have a big bowl of Honey Nut Cheerios. Okay, carbs on carbs on carbs. All right, you're going to be hungry. Most of you. Within a half hour, 45 minutes, your body has ripped through those carbs. It's stored what it's needed, and it begins to digest the rest. Because of how complex protein is in nature, it takes our stomach acids in our body a lot longer to digest, break it down, and absorb it. So we're fuller longer naturally just because of the components of what protein is and how they're built. They take longer to break down, especially if you're a meat eater. Okay, I know a lot of us in the Valley, give me a big piece of steak, a potato, some broccoli, I'm good. For some of you, your homes, you have a lot of pork, you have a lot of chicken. Absolutely. If you're a meat eater, get after it. Have a good portion at lunch, have a big portion at dinner. You are likely going to be hitting what you need without having to have a protein shake. But for those of you who are wanting to increase your protein content and are having a hard time doing so via meals, like via meat, or those of you who may be vegan or vegetarian, there are a lot of non-meat protein options. If you need help with those, reach out to me. But especially if you're vegan, vegetarian, and you're having a hard time finding those outside resources for getting enough protein in, those are conversations I'd love to have. Quick Google search, you're going to find some non-meat proteins, and we just got to find the right ones that are right for you. But again, sorry for being so long-winded. Tyler, I hope I answered your question. How do we maintain our lean mass while intermittent fasting? We got to up our protein. Up our protein, be conscious of having enough protein in each of your meals. Of course, if you're still weight training, that combination of the weight training and your increased protein intake will absolutely help you retain that lean mass. And if anything, build a little bit more lean muscle as we start to delve into more of a fat burning state than carbohydrate. Great question, and I hope I answered it.
Okay, one more quick question if anybody has it.
I'll keep this one a little short. Sorry for being so long-winded. What do we got?
Okay, it's gonna be me again. Sorry.
Yes.
I'm an athlete, and often I get hurt or I'm prone to injury. So what is like your best recommendation for preventing or recovering from an injury?
Great question. Okay. And I'm going to come at this from a non-traditional side because I'm sure you've heard all the traditional answers. So non-traditionally, I would be concerned about two things, your recovery and your nutrition. Let's start with nutrition. Especially with female athletes, If you are not eating enough calorically, the likelihood for you getting injured goes up 40%. Like if we just want to give you black and white, clear answer, it's clear. Research has been stating it for years. If you're eating under the amount that you should be, like your minimums, if you're habitually eating under, your risk of injury increases twofold. So number one, male and female athletes. Again, I work with a majority of female athletes here at FPU. And so I do want to make sure I lend as much information as I can from that experience. I at least want to make sure all of our male and female athletes are hitting their minimums. You know, if you're supposed to be eating 1,200 calories a day, but you're habitually and consistently only getting 800, that's limiting your body's ability to rebuild tissue, to rebuild damaged muscle. And when we limit our macronutrients as well, we're giving our nervous system the least amount of gas we could. So if you're thinking about it in a car, right? I want to drive to LA. If I'm only going to put a quarter gas in the tank, but I'm flooring it the whole time, that's going to probably damage the whole system. But as well, I'm only going to get so far before I run out of gas. And so number one, we want to look at nutrition. And a big answer would be like caloric, getting your caloric needs met. And it wouldn't be too difficult for you or for us to determine what your caloric needs are, but they are specific in nature. Each person is going to have their own needs. Generally, for female athletes, I say a minimum of 1,500 calories. And that's going to change based on your sport, things like that. But 1,500 is a great minimum to strive for. Same thing, I encourage our males, depending on the sport, 2,000 calories minimum. That would be a great minimum to hit. Some have a lot higher numbers that they need to get to. But just as a rule of thumb, 1,500 and 2,000 are the two minimums I would say as a college athlete, as a high school athlete, as someone who is simply athletic in nature. Those are the two thresholds I would encourage people to meet as far as caloric number that I would encourage you to be hitting every day. Recovery, let's talk about recovery just for a moment. I know we're hitting 1250. A lot of you are not taking enough time to recover. And what I mean by recovery is also like stress reduction. Okay, let's talk about the big recovery things. So we're talking physically, mentally, and spiritually. A lot of you are sleeping poorly. Okay, you're not making sleep a priority, which is going to increase your likelihood of not only injury, but it's going to reduce your likelihood of quality performance, right? If I'm only sleeping 5 hours every night, but I'm asking my body to output all this physical activity, my brain, all this cognitive stimulation, I'm in class for 5 hours a day, you need to give your body a chance to rebuild those tissues and your nervous system a chance to recharge. So as a student athlete, as somebody who is physically active, you need to be more conscious of your recovery. So number one is sleep. That recovery is also going to include our nutrition and making sure we're eating enough at the right times. Okay, but as well, I want to encourage you guys, that stress reduction is big. So when's the last time you've, just done something for yourself? You know, some of you have jobs all day, you have work, got a kiddo, you're babysitting your niece and nephews, things like that. We also need to find time so that we can de-stress, decompress, and relax. That's a big part of the recovery process that I've been adding in, and that I've been encouraging our athletes to do so as well. You know, some people don't have de-stressors when they get home. They get home and they're stressed out. Their parents are stressing them out. Your siblings need stuff, whatever. I would encourage you guys to just find that time that's simply for you, that you could be doing some things to de-stress. That could be a video game, talking to your friends, sending Mr. Hitman a funny meme. You know, you just got to find those things that are going to help you relax. And so lastly, I want to talk about stretching and rolling. Okay. For those of you who have aching pains, chronic stuff, habitual things that keep coming up, my hamstring tightens up, my back is tight, things like that, go on to Amazon. Okay. Budget out $13 to $14 and buy yourself a foam roller. Okay. And what we will use that for is what we call SMR, or self-myofascial release. That's a real fancy way of saying self-massage. Okay. For anybody in here that's like me, you can't afford to go to a masseuse all the time, you know, light the candle, spend an hour, the serene music in the background. get yourself a foam roller, okay? And I can show you some stuff. There's stuff on our Instagram page. And again, a simple Google search, foam rolling exercises, you're going to find a number of different great resources. For some of you who are runners, lifters, things like that, what's holding you back is your tight musculature. And a quick way to release some of that tension, and especially for those of you who are having a hard time sleeping, okay? Reducing your nervous activity and your muscle tightness before bed might change your whole sleep game, all right? If your back is tight, legs are tight, different muscles are super active from the day, as we release that tension, your body's gonna be able to get into REM sleep faster. And as you are less tense and as our nervous system is less being called to activate, okay, you should be able to relax and get to bed quicker. So if that's any of you who are having a hard time sleeping even, or who are waking up ache and pains from the day before, get a foam roller, invest 5-10 minutes, $14, 5-10 minutes a day. That could be the key to a lot of you just feeling a lot better, sleeping a lot better, and moving a lot better the next day. So again, I appreciate it, guys. I've taken more time than I should have, but I hope the information was helpful. I'm sure I'll be in another Zoom class before the semester is over. But if anybody has any questions, Mr. Hittman, feel free to shoot my email out to the class. And if you guys have any questions, again, I will do my best to get back to you quickly. You know, I do serve our entire student body on campus, but again, if you have questions, things like that, I want to be as helpful as possible. You can find us on Instagram at FPU Muscle. That's our Instagram handle for the weight room. You can find me at Coach_Baladi, Baladi. And our assistant strength coach, Coach Whitney Leva, her handle is at Big Ass Muscles. Best handle ever. So if you guys want to follow any of us, I'd be honored. And we're always trying to just put out helpful content, nutritional stuff, workouts, things like that. So thank you for letting me chat at you today. I hope I got to answer your questions and at least was a little bit helpful. Mr. Hittman, I hope you know I'd love to be in another Zoom if you'd like. But this was super fun. It was great to meet everybody. And I hope you have a blessed rest of your Monday and rest of your week.
Thank you, Danny. It was awesome. Good job. Everybody else, I will send an email